Okay. All right. Okay. So here we are, writing the 3 waves of GPT-powered sales. Welcome to the webinar. And yeah, just to sort of get us in the headspace for today, and thanks for joining. Really like this quote here that one of our investors shared with us, which really I think sums up what this potential of ChatGPT is all about. Is that reason can answer questions, but imagination has to ask them. And I think that's there's this key theme with ChatGPT about what they're calling prompt engineering, and it's this ability to you've probably already experimented with ChatGPT already, which is probably why you're here today. It's really easy to use. Put in questions, get some great stuff back. But actually how you prompt ChatGPT is where the real power kicks in. And so we've got some really interesting stuff to show you today about how to do that and how we see how the technology really impacting particularly the sales space over the immediate future. Today, we've really got 4 key things we're going to go through. I'm going to introduce myself and Mark, my co-founder and CTO. Mark is going to take us through what we're calling naked ChatGPT and some key tips. So just to confirm, by naked ChatGPT, we mean what you can actually sign up for now. There's ChatGPT 3.5. Mark actually, as a developer, has access to the latest 4.0. I'm going to show you some great stuff in there. I'm then going to step you through just to give you a sense of what this artificial intelligence can do inside your sales tech stack. And we're going to use our platform today to show you just some of the things that can be done in these, what we're calling these 3 waves of ChatGPT powered sales. And then finally, we're going to finish with some frequently asked questions. We're getting a lot of questions about data security and privacy. We'll put your mind to rest. We'll certainly give you a lie of the landscape there, how that's shaping up, ethics and also accuracy of the model. If you do have any questions that pop up during the meeting, please just put a question into the chat and I'll collate those and answer them, or Mark and I will do our best to answer those questions at the end of the webinar. So let's get into it. So yeah, just introducing myself and Mark. Mark and I are both co-founders of SalesGRID. Our previous venture was a company called Performio, sales commission software platform, which we're actually going to be using that as a bit of an example today in terms of as a case study for using this artificial intelligence. Mark has built some major sort of enterprise tech stack over the years, and I've been working in B2B sales and really working hard around how to actually enable sales teams to improve process and stop repeating errors, particularly on those big deals. So that's what we're about. And I think this whole ChatGPT thing has really fired our imagination for how to really enable sales teams to inject more science into how they run the sales process. So let's get into it. So ChatGPT, obviously, it's going to be a transformative technology. They're reading a lot about this in the media and in the industry. There's still obviously skepticism, but look, there's absolutely no doubt that this technology is going to transform all sorts of industries, including sales. You don't have 100 million users in 60 days, a record without it. This is going to have a huge impact. Of course, there's a lot of hype. But what we're seeing is, and what you're going to see today, I'm sure you'll agree that this tech is coming down the line fast. This is not something that's going to be making an impact towards the back end of the decade. By the end of this year, there's definitely going to be just major changes in how we're working in our day-to-day jobs and sales and in other areas. And the other key point here is that millennials don't want to engage with sellers during the B2B purchase. Now, that's a big statement, but Gartner have done a lot of research on this. And not just millennials, there's been a trend towards, buyers doing more and more research online before, social media, websites, review sites before they engage with the vendor. And that's only going to continue. And I guess the key point here is that trend is going to enable this transformative technology. It's not like, people are going to be trying to push back. If anything, it's going to enable and speed up how fast this tech comes down the line. So I think it's a really important topic. So thanks for joining today and watching the webinar. Let's get into it. So we talk about the three, how are you going to ride these three waves of AI? So what are these three waves? The way we look at it is you have a sales tech stack today. You've got a CRM, maybe you've got Salesforce or HubSpot or whatever. You've got sales engagement software pipeline. You've got a whole tech stack. And then you then got the three waves are going to be, the way we see it is there's going to be sales augmentation wave, which is, it's using artificial intelligence to work as a sales assistant to the sales team. The second wave is going to be this, again, it's augmenting the sales team, but more from a coaching, a sales expertise point of view. And then thirdly, there's a buyer augmentation. This is probably really the big one. And this is perhaps where there's a bit of hype, but we're going to show you some examples of this today where you have this sort of concept of a buyer concierge where the artificial intelligence can actually engage with the customer at, if you like, at the top of the funnel and actually provide a lot of value in that initial research process, but even going a lot further down the funnel. The technology, a lot of technology is really here now. It's more about how well you can train the model to not only mimic human intelligence, but in many ways to be actually superior in terms of the service it can deliver. So, but it's like driverless cars, right? A lot of the technology is already here for driverless cars pretty much, but we're still a long way off getting to that autonomous driving because there's various social and whatnot blockers and regulatory blockages to it. But there's, particularly these first two waves are going to be on us pretty quickly. And we're going to show you some examples of that today. So I'm going to hand over to Mark now. Mark's going to, we're going to kick off with, Mark's going to talk a bit about ChatGPT, what's the latest going on there and some examples of how you can use ChatGPT and some sort of non-obvious examples to really show the power of it and how you can prompt it. So I'm going to hand over to you, Mark, to take it from there.
All righty. So let me just share my screen. Let's go with this one. There we go. So this is the slide that we're on. There we go. Yeah. So I think if we look at ChatGPT, what is actually ChatGPT and what's so special about it? And to me, there are like three parts to it that are unique, and they seem to be kind of like intertwined. But if you break it up, it's one thing is what you can write things in natural language. It understands what you're saying, right? You don't have to craft a query like, let's say, in Google or something like that, where you don't normally use full sentences. You actually use keywords in order to do your search. Here, you can just write full sentences. So that's pretty new in terms of an interface with technology. And at the same time, it can also respond in natural language. So it speaks English quite well, better than we do actually. And so it responds in natural language. So now you can have a two-way communication in natural language. And the last bit is that it is trained on all this knowledge of the internet. And, so it's an expert on a lot of things, so it's an expert on marketing. It knows all the marketing blogs and all the marketing books out there. It's an expert on sales. It's an expert on programming. It's whatever is on the internet, it's an expert on that. And you can really tap into that. And, that's the third layer that makes it so compelling. And so that's naked ChatGPT. So at that level, it's already pretty amazing. And I can show some examples of that now. So if you go to naked ChatGPT, so I assume that most of you have already tried it. You probably start off with something like this, right? Where you just use a relatively simple query, right? A prompt, like give me 5 slogans for my sock company. And, so you can see, it understands what I'm trying to do. It does give me 5 slogans for my sock company, but they're not very good, right? So similar to, you can think of it as a digital human almost, right? So if you take an assistant and tell it, write me 5 slogans for my sock company, then, they could come up with all kinds of things, right? And so it's better to give it more context and more information. The more information you give it, the better these results become. So if you enhance this this prompt to say here, act as an expert copywriter. I mean, this is a really good way to prime the ChatGPT to act as an expert in something. In this case, as an expert copywriter, because slogans are in the marketing copywriting area, right? And then if I say, hey, give me cute ideas, right? You kind of giving it an idea in which direction I want to go. And if I say it should start with socks are like, then you kind of give it the format. And what comes out, socks are like warm hugs. So if I had a sock company, to be honest, I would use that one, right? So that is pretty good already. And I haven't done any great magic. So at that level, ChatGPT is already quite useful. But there's so much more that you can do with ChatGPT within just naked ChatGPT. So if I go, here's the next example where I'm just giving it more context, right? In this case, I'm saying, so like David said, we both worked on Performio, David's previous company together, which does sales commission software, which is like, a typical example for a SaaS company. So if I'm a salesperson in a SaaS company, then one of the prompts that I might be using is this one, where I say, act as an expert selling sales commission software, provide a bullet point list of the top 10 pain points. And so again, so I'm telling it to act as an expert. I want a bullet point list. And rather than just having a single output, I actually ask it to do the top 10, because that gives me more variety, and then I can actually look at them and decide which direction I want to go to, right? So I take the first batch and see where ChatGPT takes me, and then I can elaborate on one of those, right? And I'm being relatively specific, right? I'm not just saying here, what are the top 10 pain points of mid-sized businesses. No, I want to know about telecommunication businesses and how to overcome these challenges, right? And so here you have the pain point of manual calculations and how Performio, our previous software, would overcome that by automating the calculations, and that's absolutely right. So here you can see, as you build up these prompts and get better at writing prompts, the output will be better. And now I want to show you a more sophisticated example that we did. One of the things that SaaS companies like ours often have to do is these RFPs, requests for proposals, which is basically when you're dealing with large buyers, enterprise buyers, rather than making a gut level decision of which vendor to go with, they usually kind of structure and formalize what they expect from a vendor and write a big requirements document like this one. They usually have hundreds, if not thousands, of questions or requirements that you have to fulfill if you want to work with this buyer. And so they're always very tedious to fill out. And here's a typical one, right? So let's say here, does your software have auditing capability? Does the software have a SOC 2 report, which is a security certification? And so on and so forth. So there's a bunch of questions, and answering those are quite tedious. And now ChatGPT can help with that, because one of the things that you find in RFPs is that they often the questions are similar between different RFPs, but not exactly the same. You know, sometimes they would ask for this one, for example, does the software have any annual security certifications? Well, SOC 2 is a security certification. And so they're actually asking kind of the same as this one, right? And so ChatGPT, because it's an expert at security, for example, at IT security, and it's an expert at RFPs as well, right? It knows that these are pretty similar, that these are potentially have the same answer. And so it can take an existing RFP. Let's say you've already done one RFP, and it can use the answers from that RFP to fill out those questions that are in the new RFP as well. And so what I did, now one of the problems with RFPs often is that they come in different formats. So here, this one is a Word document. Here, more common are probably like these Excel sheets, where you have a requirement and then a response and a comment, something like that. And they come in all kinds of different formats. Well, ChatGPT can help you with all of that. So I crafted a lengthy prompt where I basically said, here's an old RFP. I said, you're an expert in RFP and filling out RFPs. Here's an old RFP. Here's the new RFP. And the old RFP was in Word format. And then the new RFP is in Excel format. And please just answer it and figure out where, you know, the answer goes. So I'm just going to paste this in here. It's a very long quote, but basically I said, you know, the second RFP, the one that's coming out, oh, nice one. The one it's generating is an Excel, right? And so now I asked it to actually take the Word document and use that as the basis, and then generate the answers to the new RFP in Excel, right, or as a table. And so here you can see I just stuck in the questions of the new RFP, and it just uses the answers that it found in the old RFP and tries to answer that. And sometimes it will not find this information, right? But sometimes it will, and then it can, you know, it can just write you the whole RFP actually. So I think this is an example of, you know, the complexity to which you can go to of just using naked ChatGPT to come up with some really crafty prompts to really simplify your work life. I mean, you know, so I'm gonna include this particular prompt in the I think at the end of the webinar, we're going to send out some documentation on some tips and tricks on ChatGPT, and I'm going to include this one, so you know you might be able to use it for your RFPs.
And Mark, this is in ChatGPT 4, right?
Yes. So currently, for free to be used for free is ChatGPT 3.5. So if you just go to the website and sign up, you're going to get ChatGPT 3.5. The latest version is ChatGPT 4, which is available for those who get a so-called Pro account, which only costs $20 a month, and I think it's well worth the investment. The difference between ChatGPT 3.5 and 4 is on some, you know, on a basic level. If you're looking for slogans for socks, we're probably not going to notice much difference, but you know, the difference comes in when you dig a little bit deeper, and it's amazingly more powerful than the 3.5 version. So they tested the 3.5 version on the American bar exam for lawyers, and 3.5 passed the bar exam, but only in the bottom 10%. And ChatGPT 4 actually managed to pass the bar exam at the top 10%. Right, so it's vastly better at reasoning, at understanding, like, you know, these kind of bar type questions, and reasoning like a lawyer. So, you know, you can see that there's a vast improvement in the in ChatGPT 4. There's some, you know, obvious improvement as well in terms of the amount of information, and you can stick it to one prompt. It basically doubled the amount of tokens, as it's called, doubled the number of words essentially that you can stick in there. They have another version coming out very soon that's gonna increase that by another factor of 5, which, you know, really helps when you're doing very long queries like these. And ChatGPT 4 also will support, it doesn't support right now, but it will support image search, which, you know, is a whole new kind of, you know, a whole new thing that will open a world of new opportunity here. So ChatGPT 4 is pretty amazing, and I suggest for all of you to get the pro version of which has ChatGPT 4.
Awesome. Thanks, Mark. And I think that, you know, that RFP example, I'll start actually sharing now. That the RFP example is really powerful, obviously, and you might have noticed, you know, there was a couple of questions there where it didn't know the answer, and that's only because, well, that was because the prompt only had just one example set of an RFP. But imagine that you're running this artificial intelligence across your own knowledge base, your own sales content, all the RFPs you've done in the past. Imagine you've got your process, you know, your unique process and methodology baked in as well. So you're now taking this incredibly fast, incredibly smart, incredibly articulate artificial human, and you're now training it up with all your stuff. And so it would be able to answer those where it said that it didn't know, it'll clearly be able to answer them. So, and now I'm going to take you through now this concept of, yeah, what if you could actually, you know, take it to another level with all your knowledge, content, process, methodology, and sales. So when we look at the, these 3 ways, we're going to demo just some examples to you today. So the first one I'm going to start with is information retrieval. And we're going to do this inside our platform, which is a sales enablement platform called SalesGRID, because, you know, that's just a good way of demonstrating the concepts. But you could, I just think also about your own tech stack. You know, if you're using Salesforce, you've got a sales enablement tool. You know, this is the sort of stuff that's possible now. It's going to be coming down the line quickly. But so here in SalesGRID, you know, what Mark's done here is he's created this new little tab just as a demo to demonstrate this Ask Me Anything concept. And if we go in and just got a question here, I'm going to ask it. So normally with content search, you know, if you want to find content, you would type in, if you're trying to find, so I've got a question here. Yeah, what is the date range of the last security report, for example? Now, normally to get an answer to that question, you know, if you think about it, you go into Google Drive, wherever your content lives, and you type in security report. You'd be trying to find a security report, then you'd have to dive into the report and try and find the date. And as you know, you could be spending quite a lot of time trying to find the right doc and then trying to find the answer. Whereas ChatGPT, it knows everything. And so I just asked the question. And so what it's now doing is it's now actually scanning all the documents that have been loaded up. So not just the internet, it knows everything about security, but it's also going in and now looking up the contents that have been loaded, and it finds the answer. So look at this. Yeah, the date range of the last security report is February 1 to April 30, 2019. It's just a report, and then it actually gives you an answer. And so this is the key thing for this use case here. It's not just serving up, and it's actually giving you a link to the relevant content item. But it's also giving you a comprehensive answer as well. This is why it's so powerful. It's not just serving up links to content, it's giving you detailed answers. And so imagine, you know, knowledge management's been around for decades, you know, at least a couple of decades. You know, this really blows it all out of the water in terms of being able to tap into all your knowledge. You can ask anything, go across everything on the internet, but everything inside your system as well. So that's one really obvious use case I think you're going to see soon.
Yeah, I think the difference is, if you go back to that example, is that, all the other systems so far, they've done a so-called keyword search, right? A full text search. They search for the words, right? While this one, because ChatGPT understands natural language and is that expert, it knows that SOC 2, which is the report that the answer contains, is actually a security report, right? So it actually makes that translation. So it's not looking for the word security report. It's actually going like, which security reports are out there? There's ISO 27001, there's SOC 1, SOC 2, blah, blah. And it goes, in this case, right, we hooked it up to the document library of Performio. And it finds the relevant, the only security certificate that is relevant in this case, which is the SOC 2 report, and then it goes in there and looks for the answer, the actual answer. So that's so-called, that's a semantic search, right? It searches for the meaning of the query that you make, and that makes it so powerful.
Yeah, and for people who are really paying close attention, we only loaded an old document, which is why it's 2019. Performio does have a more recent certification. That's not here nor there, but yeah, it's giving the right answer based on the content that's been loaded up into the knowledge base. So I think that's really powerful. Filling out RFPs is another key use case. I'm not going to labor that too much now. Mark showed that amazing concept in ChatGPT 4. Obviously here with Ask Me Anything, you could do the questions one by one in the RFP, but Mark showed how to be very simple, pretty straightforward for them to build in here an RFP generator. So you load up the RFP doc and Shazam, you could actually see it being built out in real time, because again, it's you're not going to just have one. And this is this whole thing about prompt engineering. You're baking in the prompts, and it's now got access to maybe hundreds of RFPs. So it's got all this information to scan over to then give the best possible answer. Another one to think about is you probably might have already experimented with this, email writer, but imagine that as an assistant can write really good emails for you. And so imagine that. Imagine this is your CRM, okay? So this could be in Salesforce or whatever. Here we're showing in SalesGRID. But the key point here is that the artificial intelligence can actually, it understands, it can write, really good natural language, but it can actually scan your CRM. So maybe you've done like a first meeting, needs analysis, there were some key points that came down. Maybe this came from your conversational intelligence feature as well. And, it's scanning all this information in your sales process and your CRM. And then you can we've just got this is just a simple example here of clicking on an email button, and you can see the artificial intelligence. This is ChatGPT is now going to work, and it's now crafting an email, but it's actually crafting an email based on how it's being prompted in the background. And the way it's being prompted is to say, look, write an email to the customer. And this is interesting here, it's actually, Mark's written a prompt, engineered a prompt in the background to go, okay, produce this sort of mutual action plan, and put that in the email as well. So again, the point here is obviously ChatGPT, you can write content, so I can write emails, but you can then also in the background prompt with, what are the types of, in terms of your sales methodology, how sort of email templates that you want to write at certain steps in the sales process. So I think, that's really just one example of content creation. You could have, if you want to, generate me a battle card, generate me a talk track, based on these different competitors. You've got all your knowledge about your competition, about your product feature sets. ChatGPT could then, generate stuff on the fly dynamically to support your sales process. Another one, so that's sort of three examples under this sales augmentation wave, where and you're assisting the sales team. This is three examples. I think the coaching one's really interesting as well. So imagine that that, like Mark said, ChatGPT, it knows everything that's ever been written about sales that appears on the internet. So it's an expert in sales, but imagine if you can actually really prime it to be an expert on your sales process and methodology. You could then make it like a tactical coach, an expert. So I'll just give you an example here where, so imagine this is your CRM. It's here in SalesGRID, but this, you're going to see this in products soon. So you go, I'm inside my CRM and I'm looking at a particular deal. I think my internet's a bit slow here. This is why it's okay. There you go. So I'm looking at a deal here for Smith & Co. First meeting, and I've got this coach button here. So what this is going to do now is, this deal is dormant. And so imagine you're saying to the coach, look, I need some tips on how to move this deal forward. And so you have, baked into your application, you've got this artificial intelligence, available 24/7 to give you tips. What are the things I can do to move this deal forward? So you can see here. So what's going on here is it's actually scanned the internet as well as the information inside the database here and come up with 5 tips. And look, reach out to the contact, providing additional info, ask if there's additional pain points. It's fairly generic, but it's all pretty bang on sort of sales advice. And I think the first thing it's interesting is it's giving you 5 tips. And it's sort of making sales, it's helping you to think a bit more broadly about what your options are. But there's also potentially stuff coming in here that's relevant to your. So imagine you've got your sales methodology. You use Challenger Sales or Miller Hyman or whatnot. You can actually bake it. The expert could come, or the coach could come back to you with stuff that's relevant to your methodology. And so it's constantly prompting the salesperson with your methodology and suggestions and tips. So I think that's a really interesting application as well. Again, it's scanning your CRM, scanning your methodology, and presenting those coaching options.
I think the difference basically is you can see that assistant help me with writing an email or with wordsmithing stuff. But now we're getting into this realm where we're actually tapping into the expert knowledge, the expert knowledge that it gained from the internet, and then B, any expert knowledge that you can feed it into, about your sales process or the way you do things in your company, your sales IP.
Cool. And I'm going to hand over to you. This is the final thing we're going to show today, which is kind of our piece de resistance, if I may say. So this is taking up another level again. We're going to show you how because ChatGPT, it's not just Q&A, it can actually effectively run a conversation. So you can do like role plays, which then actually dovetails under this idea of having like a buyer concierge as well. So I'm going to hand over to you, Mark, because my internet is running a bit slow, it seems. And I'm just going to hand over to you so you can take us through. Mark's built some really amazing stuff here around how you can actually engage almost as an artificial human in a role play, or what we're calling a skills practice. And so I take it from there, Mark.
Sure. Look, this is another example. Now, this looks a little bit different from a normal ChatGPT, but in essence, I just gave it a more complex prompt. So in this case, I said, look, if we're going to this assistant and coaching realm, one of the things that a sales coach would do with you is role plays or skills practice, where you would basically, learn how to do a discovery meeting. There's certain questions that you want to be asking, and, there's certain things that you want to do. And, a good way of practicing that is to do a role play. Well, ChatGPT can also help you do the role playing and be your role playing partner. So in this case, I told ChatGPT basically to play the role playing partner. I call it Tom. And Tom is interested in buying sales commission software. And I'm a new sales trainee at Performio. And my job is to ask some, initial questions to get to understand where Tom's at and what he's looking for, and whether Performio is the right solution for him. So, in addition, so now I'm not going to use, I'm not going to type in stuff. I actually added a voice to text and text to voice part to that, just to make it easier to navigate. Let me just try it now. Good morning, Tom. Welcome to Performio. How can I help you?
I'm the rewards manager at Optus and I'm exploring options for a new commission system. Can you tell me more about Performio?
Absolutely. I think first I want to understand a little bit about your role and how you calculate commissions at Optus. Can you tell me a little bit about that?
I manually calculate commissions using multiple Excel spreadsheets. It takes up to 10 days to complete the calculations, approvals, and error handling.
Now I told it, now, this now mimics a normal conversation. So this really utilizes this understanding natural language and can produce natural language. And I, in the background, the prompt, spelled out the scenario. I said, look, you play Tom, you work at Optus, and you calculate just what he's just saying, calculate commission manually. This is a very typical scenario that Performio usually comes across, and the typical company that they would sell into. And so this is exactly what a role play would be like. And I also told it, not to give me all the information up front. So the prompt is relatively long and elaborate in terms of like all the issues that Tom is having with his commission calculation right now, and he's trying to solve. But I told it specifically, don't give me too much information. Just let me, because one of the things that you want to learn during this role play is to elicit information and try to really get to the root cause. So let me ask some more questions here. Let me just think about that. What am I going to ask him? All right, multiple Excel, 10 days to complete. What impact does that have on your company that it takes 10 days to complete the calculations?
It creates delays and frustration for both the sales reps and myself. The process is tedious, error-prone, and time-consuming. It also hinders my ability to focus on other important tasks.
So now we're digging a lot deeper into where he's coming from and trying to understand Tom's situation, Optus situation. Some typical questions that you also want to ask during an initial meeting is potentially either the band criteria, budget, authority, need. This is what we're already discussing here, and then the timeline. Let me just ask. That's great to know. Do you have a timeline and when you want to have a new commission solution in place?
We are looking to make a decision on a new solution within the next 3 months. Ideally, implementation and integration should take place within 6 months from now.
All right, so now we can see, we're having this normal conversation, and we could do this for, a normal meeting, like a half an hour, getting into the discovery of his situation. And, but, that's not all we can do. Now, the next step is, because ChatGPT is this expert, I can also ask you, okay, now we had this conversation, now switch roles again. Now you're the expert coach. Give me an assessment of how well I did. And so here, in this case, I asked it to assess it according to the band criteria, whether I elicited that stuff. And now I can see here that how did I do in the band criteria? Budget? No, I did not ask for the budget. That's right. I also didn't ask authority. That's right. I think I did all right on the need, but he did say, okay, the timeline for purchasing pass. So you can see that it can then do an assessment of how well I did in this conversation. So ChatGPT, you can, it's a very universal tool, and depending on the prompting, you can do a lot of different things with it. And we think this role playing, is a very, very advanced, but really wonderful way of using ChatGPT, for your specific needs in your sales team. And we think that's going to be a really powerful way to use ChatGPT. the last thing that I want to show is, we're working on the next generation of this. So here, Tom's voice was a bit wooden, and obviously I only had Tom here as a still image, but the next wave, the next generation of this skills practice, I just want to show quickly. So this is this one. So now I'll start the conversation again. Good morning, Tom. How are you going? How can I help you?
Good morning. I'm interested in learning more about Performio and what it can offer for commission calculations. Can you tell me more about it?
Absolutely. Performio calculates commission for companies between 50 and 5,000 sales reps. And we're one of the top 10 tools in the world.
That sounds interesting. Can you tell me more about how Performio works and how it would specifically help with commission calculations?
So you can see here, next level is, is having actually a talking avatar, and that has a better voice. So this is just an example of the next level of the skills practice.
Yeah, I think so. What we're trying to get, what Mark's working towards here is, it's almost like simulating like a Zoom meeting, so that you're talking. So the role play or the skills practice, feels really as close to a Zoom type or Teams type meeting. And again, imagine if a buyer concierge thing, imagine as a customer, you're coming in and you're having this conversation to elicit information and whatnot. Or maybe you just prefer the more text to voice option, but you can see, it'll be interesting to see what people prefer. But so I think it's pretty damn amazing. But I should actually also say, Mark, apologies to Simon Dethridge, who we actually took, he's a sales consultant I'm actually meeting with after this meeting, and we just took his image off the internet. And so this tech that Mark has used is so sophisticated. You just take an image off the internet and it actually creates the moving voice, doesn't it, Mark? It's sort of.
That's right. So this is Simon here, and exactly right. So I just take the picture and it does the rest for us. Awesome.
Okay, I'm conscious of time. We've said this would be 40 minutes. We're now getting close to 40. It's 45 since we started. So just going to wrap things up with some key points. I also apologies to Optus. That was just a hypothetical example. Optus actually uses Performio, so I also just want to call that out. That was just purely hypothetical, obviously. But let's just wrap up with some really key points. I guess, how far can it go with this buyer concierge? Some of the stuff we've shown you today. I think
you haven't really. I don't know. So basically, what we saw is the role play. But now imagine, so the buyer concierge is, imagine you're flipping the roles again, where you're saying you don't play the buyer, you are actually the sales rep, right? And buyers would interact with you, right? I think that's. Maybe you can explain a little bit more what we thought of as the buyer concierge.
Yeah, so the buyer concierge. So imagine you plug in the artificial intelligence into your website. So you have a web page where people can interact. They can ask for information. They can, potentially ask for a demo, ask for a presentation of key information, gather information, gather requirements. That all goes into your CRM. So you almost have like a digital sales room. And this is where we can start really hyping it up, right? But I think, as you've seen today, I think the key point to make here is that there's absolutely no doubt that it's going to be very effective. It's available 24/7. It always rocks up on time. It doesn't have a bad attitude. It's going to be very good at doing things like gathering information, providing information, showcasing information, showcasing the product, potentially project managing key aspects of the deal. And the point we're making here is that I think for salespeople, if they're just doing these types of things, then they're going to be, that risk. I think where salespeople will need to move, and this is also going to be similar across other industries, I think, is that is that salespeople will need to be really good at diagnosing and framing business needs and designing complex solutions, presenting solutions, and so forth. And that's where the human touch is needed. But what we're going to see with artificial intelligence is, you're going to have these digital sales rooms, or even on your website, where people can interact with the artificial intelligence to do a lot of work before they need to talk to a human. But they're going to need to talk to the human sales team, especially where you've got fairly complex business needs and whatnot. But it's the salesperson's role is going to be more high value add. It's not going to be just doing, if you're just a sales rep who just asks some basic questions and provides info back, that's going to be done by the AI. So I think that's a key. I think that's a prediction. I think it's pretty solid. You're going to see that fairly soon. I think just, so we've shown you some key concepts today around ask me anything, respond to an RFP, et cetera, et cetera. I think, so we hope you've really gathered some really interesting stuff out of the webinar today about the potential. ChatGPT is going to be a lot more than just writing content, which is obviously a good use case. But if you embed it inside your sales tech stack, it's all about that prompt engineering. It's actually prompting the artificial intelligence with context, with additional information that's related to your business, to your customers, to your situation. It's going to be just super powerful. I just want to finish off with, I guess, we've talked about today really about these concepts of embedding. I think we've made that point today, that it's all about taking naked ChatGPT and embedding all your content and giving access to your data to provide this incredibly powerful assistant or sales coach. And so I just want to wrap with, what we're doing. And this is, hopefully this has been an informative session, but if you're really interested in digging into this further and you actually want to look at how can you train up your sales assistant, we're actually running a trial program with customers, 90-day program to really see how far this tech can go. How far can we train the assistant? How much we can iterate over the job description? And it's a fantastic opportunity. It's a great opportunity for us, but it's a great opportunity for customers to actually really almost run like their own internal R&D project, and then present that back to their colleagues on what this tech can do inside their business, inside their tech stack. So if you're interested in having a look at this, it's a great opportunity for you to take a leadership role in your organization, drive some incredible innovation, get some immediate benefit, and naturally, we think we're really well placed to help you run this project. But if you're interested in really getting ahead of the wave, really riding these three waves, getting up there quickly, let us know. We'd love to have a chat, so you can contact me there, David at salesgrid.us. Just finishing off with questions. We get a lot of questions about data security and privacy. I might just hand over to you, Mark, just to make a couple of quick comments on that, where things are at and where it's moving.
Yeah, certainly. I mean, all companies are, concerned about data security, and now with this new technology, if you're thinking about, giving, ChatGPT access to internal information, obviously, that raises the security alarm bells. There is, you got to be aware that ChatGPT, if you just log into the website, the free version explicitly says that this is a research project, and that by default it will capture all the information that you type in there and use that in order to train the model, or potentially use that in order to train the model. So what you're not going to find is that, if you type in our ARR, let's say Performia's ARR is $10 million this year, then that's not going to go into the brain of ChatGPT automatically, but it will be kept by the company that runs ChatGPT, OpenAI, and maybe used to train ChatGPT in the future. So you got to be a little bit careful with using the free version. Now, the API version, on the other hand, it explicitly, OpenAI is already aware that, once integrating ChatGPT into, once companies integrate it into their own tools, like we did in SalesGRID, that, we have to have some assurances around security and that, and privacy, that the data does not get used and leaked or anything like that. And so the API has already a restriction that by default, the data is not used in order to train the model. But OpenAI and all these, so OpenAI and ChatGPT is just one example, right? Google is working on a similar technology, and Microsoft is actually invested in OpenAI, but there's different other models out there. And, all these vendors are keenly aware that, they are trying to sell to SaaS businesses. And any SaaS business is, needs to be concerned about security. So they're working hard on, getting the security to the level where, you can trust it. You can think about it similar to AWS when cloud computing came out. It needed to make sure that people trust storing the data in the cloud, and it got all the security certificates that are needed in order to provide that trust. And similarly, OpenAI is working, and all these other vendors are working on having that, or have that already in place. There's other, vendors, like for example, some data will be stored in a so-called vector database. One of the vendors is Pinecone. They are already SOC 2 certified, which is, this is one of these security certifications. So they're all working hard to build that infrastructure in a way that, SaaS businesses can tap into it and not worry about security and privacy.
Yeah, thanks, Mark.
Sorry, there's another, maybe I'll just go through all the three questions. So in terms of accuracy, you probably heard about the problem with hallucinations in ChatGPT. So basically that makes up information and defends that information vigorously. So it's very hard to tell whether things are fact or fiction. And that is certainly a concern. I think at this point, they're saying that ChatGPT has about 20% hallucinations, but they're working hard on, even ChatGPT 4 already made great strides in being able to say no. Basically what it said, ChatGPT 3 in particular, couldn't say no to things, right? It would always try to be positive and try to answer the question, even if it was wrong, and very convincingly. ChatGPT 4 is a lot better at saying no and that it doesn't know. And this is actually they found that this is just an engineering problem, meaning that they already know where the cause is for this for ChatGPT hallucinating, and it's really just a matter of fine-tuning the model in a better way to get more accurate results. So it's just a matter of time, and this is really. Imagine, right? So between ChatGPT 3, 3.5, and 4, that's about a year's, the time span between these versions. So we're going to get a much more accurate version of GPT 4 probably within the next 6 months. So it's all moving extremely fast. So I think accuracy is not going to be a problem in the near future. Now, there's another thing around ethical, ethical concerns around ChatGPT, and the problem is that ChatGPT, without any constraints, would also give you, very detailed information on how to build bombs, or, any type of information that might not be suitable for for general consumption, and might be racially biased, and you raise all these ethical concerns. But a lot of these OpenAI, all these large language model vendors are working hard in order to constrain the models so they wouldn't go into those topics. They say, look, anything that's about politics, just say, look, I don't have an opinion on that. And the problem is that you have these large vendors like OpenAI and Google that are working hard on constraining the models. You can also get other models that you can almost basically build on your own machine nowadays. And so the danger is that malicious actors, basically hackers, for example, they can use this technology in order to do bad things. You know, one of the things that we've already found is that you know, this voice generation is artificial intelligence as well. And so the voice generation, they can actually imitate your voice if they've heard it once before, right? So they just take, let's say, a snippet, they call you and they record a snippet of your voice, and then they can use that in order to generate any utterance in your voice, right? And so they could call, you know, your children and say, or the other way around, you know, they can call your mother and say, hey, mom, I lost my wallet, and can you wire me $50, right? And because you think you recognize the voice, you know, you would be more tempted to do that. And so, you know, there are definitely ethical questions that this kind of stuff will be used for malicious intent, but the industry is also working hard in putting some guardrails around that.
Cool. And I guess there's also the thing of potentially if you can empower ChatGPT to start remotely clicking on parts of the software, or is there any, you can actually use it to actually drive devices, and that's a whole.
So right now, ChatGPT is quite passive, right? It won't do anything until you ask it something, right? And then it'll just answer the question. But imagine, you know, so there's nothing that keeps these large language models from having actually a purpose, right? Like they want to do something. Let's say they want to infiltrate a network, right? And then use their expert knowledge in order to do that. And so the last bit, but you know, right now it's just basically question answer, or, you know, like language, right? But they're already working on things where ChatGPT, rather than outputting just language, it will actually do actions on your computer. Like, for example, remote control your browser to log into websites, right? And so, you know, it's not, you know, too far-fetched to think that if you tell ChatGPT to break into a website and, you know, you give it actually the capability of, you know, entering text into websites and all that kind of stuff, then, you know, it could actually do that.
Yeah, I think that's where it gets you know, the big ethical questions. But anyway, I think yeah, we've definitely ethically, we've gone over time. So let's we'll draw it to an end then. Thanks for joining everyone today. And yeah, like Mark said, we're going to send out a copy of the some really good example prompts just to fire your imagination, what you can do with ChatGPT. And again, if you really like to dig into how you can train your assistant, we'd love to work with you on that. Thanks again.
Thank you.
Thank you.